this thing on? It is. All right, and welcome back to the Bandwagon Sports Show. I'm your host, DaRock, and we are bringing back the morning shoot-around here on the Bandwagon Sports channel, where I just go around and talk about all the sports that happened this weekend, because it's a big sports weekend. It's kind of hard for me to just focus in on one, on NFL like I was doing in the fall. I kind of want to switch it up, and I think next fall I'm probably going to do that as well, where, I'm a big college basketball guy, so we're going to start there, talk some NFL, talk some hockey, talk a little NBA, talk it all, because there's a lot of sports that go on every weekend, and I want to give all of them some love. So before we get into it, if you like talking ball, listening to guys talking ball, this is the place for you. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. So we're going to start in college basketball. Like I mentioned, I'm a big college basketball guy. That's kind of the focus here on this channel. I would say probably the most covered sport. And we had a heck of a first weekend here for conference play. It really started Friday night. Friday night, there's, some good games. Cam Jones went off for Marquette, 22 points for him in a 79-71 win over Creighton. Michigan State, they went into Columbus, knocked off the Buckeyes 69-62. Wisconsin, they put up 116 points on Iowa, winning 116-85, behind 32 points from 32 points from John Blackwell. And then really the game of the night. If you stayed up for this one, respect to you. I did. New Mexico knocked off Nevada 82-81 on a buzzer beater by Nelly Jr. Joseph. 2 of his 20 points, just kind of loose ball. Kind of broken play, just scooped it up, puts it in for the buzzer beater, and, that wrapped up the night. Also, want to shout out Georgetown. Georgetown, they're 12-2 this year, 3-0 now in Big East play, behind 26 points from Leak Mack in a 69-63 win. So, a lot of good games just on Friday night, which is rare. I feel like you don't really get that in college basketball. Like I mentioned, I stepped for that Nevada-New Mexico game. It ended around close to probably 1 in the Central, so like 2 Eastern. And then we got right into it with the game of the day at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, like 9 hours later. A little bit earlier tip than usually college football. College football usually waits till noon Eastern, 11 Central to start. College basketball, they were roaring, ready to go at 11 Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, with the Kentucky Wildcats picking up a 106-100 win over Florida. Super high-scoring game, handing Florida their first loss on the year. The leader for the Wildcats was Kobe Brea. He had 23 points, 8 of 11 from the floor, and just he could not miss from beyond the arc. Beyond the arc, he went 7 of 9. Like, that's just insane. So 7 of his 8 baskets were from beyond the arc. Like, that's just crazy to me. So, I'm sorry, 23 points, not 22. I forget if I said 22 or 23. But see, he was the Wildcats' leading scorer, and he came off the bench. He still played 22 minutes, but came off the bench. All their starters were also in double figures. Lamont Butler had 19 points, 14 points from Jackson Robinson. Otega Owe had 16 as well, and then 15 points from Amari Williams with 8 boards and 5 assists. And then Andrew Carr had 14 points, 5 assists, 4 boards. So very balanced attack from Kentucky, and honestly, it's just a lot different, this Kentucky team, when you watch them from teams in past years. All the Calipari teams, they're loaded with all these one-and-done guys, like kind of stars of the show, where they needed to have the ball at all times. This team's very different. It's just a very balanced attack, and it's really a lot of fun to watch. Walter Clayton was the leading scorer in the game for the Gators. He had 33 points, as well as 5 assists. And then Elijah Martin also had a good game, 26 points, 5 rebounds for him. This was just a very, very back-and-forth game, like kind of up and down, very quick. As you can see, it was both teams scored over 100 points in a college game. You don't see that super often. Like I mentioned, 3-point shooting was also big, really just the biggest factor in this game. Kentucky went 14-29, shooting 48% from the floor. Florida was only 12 of 33, which is only 36% from the floor. And when you look at it, you lose by 6 points. You give up. I guess it was only two more threes, but just the volume that Kentucky was shooting them at as opposed to Florida. Florida get a couple more to drop. Maybe they pull out this game. So, first loss of the year for the Gators. The SEC is just absolutely loaded this year. It's going to be a really good conference. I'm going to get to some of those other games next. Big thing also here was Kentucky had 20 points off of turnovers compared to Florida only scoring 4. So that was a big difference as well. But yeah, it was just really a close game back and forth. Both teams always had an answer. There was a lot of runs. Both teams led this game by 11 points at one point, was their largest lead. But it was just really fun watching the shot making in this one and watching these two teams go back and forth. It's a real shame. That's the one shame. I've touched on it in my college football videos. These power conferences, you don't play as many conference games. So we're not going to get to see these two teams play again. And I mean, they're two of the top 5 teams in the SEC for sure. Maybe even higher than that. But we'll see. We'll then get to the next game here in the SEC. There's a lot of them, so we'll kind of run through these a little bit quickly. This was a big headline maker. So John Calipari's former or now new team, the Arkansas Razorbacks, they lost 76-52 on the road to the number 1 team in the country, the Tennessee Volunteers. So, like I mentioned, early tips today. This is the game on ESPN after Kentucky and Florida. And Calipari is catching a lot of flack because he chose to let his team sleep in and not have a shoot-around. And you could tell there were guys sleepwalking through that game, were not ready to play. And it's honestly just a very, very disappointing performance for the Razorbacks. They were led by, leading scorer was DJ Wagner, 17 points. And then Boogie Flan had 12. But yeah, I mean, like Jonas Adu, he's playing against his old school. He was at Kentucky last year. Only 4 points for him, 5 rebounds, 3 blocks. But, he had a turnover, just not a good game from him. He only took 3 shots, I guess. But, yeah, not a great game. 0 for 2 from the line. Adu Thyro, he only had 6 points on 7 shots with 5 rebounds, 2 turnovers for him as well. 0 of 4 from the line for him. And then Carter Knox, the other starter, only 6 points for them. So, I mean, just not great games. John L. Davis off the bench, too. He came off the bench. He played the most minutes off the bench, 25. Played more than Knox and as much as Thyro. He didn't have any points. This is a guy at Florida Atlantic in the past couple of years. Owl Man, big Florida Atlantic fan. I love John L. Davis there, but just did nothing. 0 for 4, 0 points, only 1 rebound or 2 rebounds, and a turnover and a foul. Bro was essentially just running. That's what I'm saying. These guys clearly did not come to play. And when you're playing against a loaded team like Kentucky, that's just not going to fly. So the leading scorer for Tennessee, sorry, I just said Kentucky. When you're playing against the number 1 team in Tennessee, that's not going to fly, not showing up. Tennessee, 14-0 now on the year. Remaining undefeated, led by Chaz Lanier. This guy, a lot of fun to watch. 29 points from him, 5 of 9 from beyond the arc, as well as 2 rebounds. So he's just a really fun player to watch. I definitely would recommend tuning into Tennessee if you have not already. Then Zakai Ziegler, he's been there. He came back from an ACL injury. He had 12 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. So good all around game for him. 2 of 5 from beyond the arc. Igor Milicic Jr. also had a very good game. 13 points for him, 2 of 5 from beyond the arc with 18 rebounds, just feasting on the glass and 5 assists. So really good game there from the big. And yeah, I mean, this Kentucky team, man, they're low. Why do I keep saying Kentucky? This Tennessee team, they're loaded. I'm thinking of Calipari. So, I mean, it's just tough look for, I think Kentucky fans are kind of happy that he left. Granted, they're calling for Calipari to leave, but you can just tell the way Mark Pope has Kentucky coached, they're a lot more disciplined team. They're doing the little things. And Arkansas just doesn't appear that way. And like I said, the SEC is going to be a tough league this year, man. I mean, Tennessee's number 1 in the country. You could argue that Auburn should be the number 1 team in the country, the wins they have. Alabama's a solid squad. Kentucky's good. Florida's good. Arkansas is going to have to step their play up if they're going to be competitors in the SEC. I mean, they should be a tournament team, no doubt, but not a great game. Looking at some other SEC scores, the other team that was undefeated in the SEC that now is no longer at Oklahoma, they get routed 107-79 by Alabama on the road there in Tuscaloosa. Mark Sears led the way for the Crimson Tide. He had 22 points. It's good to see him kind of stepping up. Some of these non-conference games, granted, Alabama did play a very tough non-conference schedule, but some of his games really weren't that great. But, yesterday, a very good game from him, 22 points, 10 assists. I didn't get to watch a ton of this game. It was more just me looking at the box score here, and then I watched highlights, read Twitter. It's on SEC Network. I somehow don't get SEC's network. I don't know why. LeBron Filion, 16 points, second leading scorer for the Crimson Tide. Also had 5 assists, went 2 of 5 from beyond the arc. Good game from him. Cliff Amore had 10 points as well, and Grant Nelson, 12 points. Jarin Stevenson had 9, so they're 1 point away by Stevenson away from having all their scorers in double digits, or all their starters in double digits as well. They did have Darian Reed with 11 points off the bench, and Aiden Holloway also had 10 points. So very, very balanced attack from the Crimson Tide. Like I mentioned, they're going to be up there competing, one of the top teams in the SEC. I mean, they're 5th-ranked team in the country right now. 3 of the top 5 teams in the country, and 4 of the top 6 are in the SEC. So pretty crazy to see all that. Let's see, other SEC scores. Auburn pretty handily winning over Missouri, 84-68. Jahmai Broome, National Player of the Year. You gotta check out Auburn if you haven't yet. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's outside of Cooper Flagg, probably my favorite player to watch in NCAA. So good game for him in the win. Texas A&M, they renew their rivalry with Texas. The Longhorns, first time back in a conference game, and they get an 80-60 win. I mean, this game was tied at halftime. It was 37-37.5. And the Aggies just rolled with it away in the second half. Zurich Phelps was the leading scorer with 18 points for the Aggies. Mississippi State absolutely ran South Carolina out the gym. Mississippi State also ranked 17th heading in this game. They're up 43-18 at halftime. And going on for an 85-50 win. Keyshawn Murphy was their leading scorer with 12 points. So good game for him. I mean, that game was really never close. I feel bad for South Carolina. I mean, they're a solid team, but just how deep the SEC is, it's gonna be a tough year for them. And then Ole Miss as well picked up a nice win, 63-51. They actually trailed at halftime, but came back to win over Georgia. So another ranked team. I mean, Georgia's kind of like sniffing the rankings a little bit. Like some people, I forget if I had them ranked in my poll last week. But the Rebels were led by Matthew Murrell, 15 points for him, and 6 rebounds as well. So good game from him. He was really their leading scorer. I mean, nothing really crazy here for the Rebels. Kind of all low scores. I mean, Jamin Brakefield at 15 off the bench as well. So good win for Ole Miss. So that's gonna kind of wrap up first weekend of SEC play. Now moving on to the ACC. Got to mention them. Duke Blue Devils go on the road to SMU, go to Dallas, and knock off the Mustangs 89-62, welcoming them to the ACC. Duke was actually without head coach John Shire in this game, which was kind of weird, but it sounds like he should be back on Tuesday, so rest up, get well for him. And like I just mentioned, Cooper Flagg, man, just absolute beast in this game, just dominated. 24 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, went 2 of 2 from beyond the arc, 8 from 8 from the free throw line. Like, they just did not have an answer for him. And, I mean, he's proven why he's going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, having games like this. I mean, Duke, the ACC is pretty weak this year. Duke has a legitimate shot to, I don't want to say go undefeated, because let's just be honest, in a power conference, that's just very rare. I don't think it happens, but I mean, more than I think like 2 losses for Duke in conference play would be a big disappointment. Honestly, this game against Pitt on Tuesday is probably one of their bigger ones. Con Knippel, also a good game for him, 14 points, 3 of 8 from beyond the arc. Tyrese Proctor, he had 14 points as well, 4 of 7 from beyond the arc with 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Kaman Maluwak, he had 8 points, but he had a really good game defensively as well. 1 block, 8 rebounds. He was crashing the glass. And then Sion James was the other Duke starter, only 6 points for him, but he played well as well, 8 assists. He was more of a distributor in that game. So Duke, they roll, easy win. Really not much more to say about that one. Their counterparts down the road, though, had a little bit more of a challenge, a little bit more of a tough time. Challenging matchup is North Carolina. They knock off Notre Dame 74-73, and it took Elliot Cadeau's and 1 3-pointer, 4-point play in the final possession to give the Tar Heels the victory. They were up at halftime in this game. They were up by 7 points, like looking pretty good, like came off in a good start in the second half. But then Notre Dame, they went on a run, took the lead back, like really kind of led most of the way until that like final possession, or it was tied. But Cadeau stepped up in clutch time. Good big shot. Honestly, not saved their season, but saved the game. And like I mentioned, the ACC is kind of weak this year. You can't be dropping games to teams like Notre Dame. I mean, they're 7-7 on the year, 1-2 now in conference. So that was a really, really big shot by Cadeau there. The leading scorer for the Tar Heels was Ian Jackson with 27 points, 6 boards for him as well to go with that. RJ Davis, who's been there for a while for Carolina, he only had 8 points in the game, shooting 0 of 3 from beyond the arc, so really not a good game from him. And then, the other two Carolina starters, Drake Powell and Jalen Washington, also had 8 points as well. So not a good game from the Tar Heels. I mean, I haven't really been super impressed with them lately, Grant. They did play, some tough games, despite being 9-6, but not a great record. They're probably hoping for a little bit better start than that. The Fighting Irish were led by Tay Davis. He scored 17 points, including that was his 5 or 8 from free throw, not from beyond the arc. So 17 points for him. And then Braden Shrewsbury, Coach Mike Shrewsbury's son, had 16 points as well, the second leading scorer. Their leading scorer, though, was Marcus Burton off the bench. He had 23 points for him. So, he was just kind of firing away. He took 14 shots. He took as many shots as Shrewsbury and Davis, despite coming off the bench. Grant did play 23 minutes, so, he played a good amount. But Notre Dame just comes up short. Tough scene, but honestly, Notre Dame, I didn't expect them to win that game. So the fact that they just even made it competitive was honestly kind of impressive. And then now moving on to Sunday, we had some good games here on Sunday as well. Indiana, they get a good road win against Penn State, 77-71 at the Palestra. Umar Bala was back in the lineup. He had some off-the-court issues last week, didn't play in one of their games against Winthrop because he was seen out the night before the game, but he's back today. Stepped up big, no Malik Renew for the Hoosiers, so 25 points, 13 boards from Bala. They definitely needed that. Oregon had a good win, 83-79. They came back. They were down pretty big. I want to say it was like close to 20 points at one point against Maryland, but good comeback win for them. Let's see here. I'm trying to see this largest lead. Sorry, I didn't have it pulled up. My apologies. Largest lead, or I guess it was only 13, so never mind. 13 points, but they come back. They needed that after getting blown out by Illinois on Thursday, which was just like people not see coming. I mean, Ducks are ranked 9th currently. They're definitely going to drop in this poll, but it would have been a very tough look to go 0-2 on the weekend. They're led by 23 points from Jackson Shellstad. Nate Biddle, who's kind of been one of their leaders as well, he had 16 points, and then 10 points from Jadarian Tracy, and then Keyshawn Barthelemy had 14 off the bench as well. Maryland was led by 19 points from Rodney Rice and 16 from Jacoby Gillespie. Derek Queen had 17 as well. He's actually a buck. He's a lot of fun to watch when I've watched Maryland, but Terps now fall to 1-3 in conference. Not a great start. Big Ten's to be a very tough league this year. There's not really one dominant team, but there's a lot of teams, I would say, that are probably in the 4 or 5 seed range, 4 or 5, 6 seed range come tournament time. So if you want to be one of those upper echelon teams, Maryland, you probably got to win a game like this. And Oregon, good win for them. I mean, can't afford to lose 2 games on the week like that. That would have been, big drop off for them. Kind of looking through some other ones here. Illinois-Washington was actually a really good game. The Fighting Illini, they sweep the Pacific Northwest because, like I mentioned, they won that game against Oregon, and then they knock off Washington 81-77 today. Kasparis Giacchionis was the leading scorer with 18 points, and then Trey White had 17 as well. Killian Boswell also with 14, another starter in double digits. So good win for Illinois. They're up big. Washington came back, actually tied it at one point, but the Fighting Illini were able to hold them off, end up getting the victory. So really good week for them. They're definitely be happy coming home from that. Memphis, they got tested a little bit against North Texas, but a 68-64 win for them. PJ Haggerty with 27 points. That guy, another bucket. I'm just shouting out all these guys for buckets. I mean, give them DaRock. Let them shoot DaRock because their buckets are scoring it. Memphis, they're the number 1 team in the American. They're gonna get everyone's best shot. North Texas is gonna be up there in the American as well. So. Good win for them to not come back, but it was a tight game. It wasn't a blowout. They had to play pretty contested game. And then the final game here I'm gonna touch on from college basketball of the weekend, probably the best one on Sunday. The UConn Huskies knock off the Providence Friars 87-84 at home in Gamble Pavilion. Providence led by double digits in this game, was looking like they were gonna get a really signature road win. I mean, they led by as much as 14 at one point, but UConn, they come back in the second half despite trailing by 12 at halftime, outscoring the Friars 60-45, and I mean, they were just hitting so many tough shots in the second half. Hassan Diarra was the leading scorer with 19, but honestly, this was really a breakout game for Aiden Mahaney, a transfer from St. Mary's past couple of years. He played 20 minutes, scored 15 points today, 2-2 from beyond the arc. Like, he's honestly kind of struggled a little bit, especially in, like, Maui when UConn did not play well. I mean, finishing 8th, like, definitely not acceptable for them for the back-to-back defending champions, but they come back today, good win. They're now 4-0 in the Big East. They've had some close games, but they kept being able to pull them out, so that's good for the squad. Solo Ball also had 16 points. Samson Johnson also with 10 points, and then Alex Caravan, the junior leader, he's been there for a while now, was on both championship teams. He had 13 points as well, so that's a lot of double-digit scores for the Huskies. I mean, that's going to happen when you score 87. The Friars were led by Jaden Pierre with 24 points, and then Wesley Cardette Jr. with 18. So, good win for UConn. They definitely needed that. 12-3, they bounced back. Literally, their only losses this year have come in Hawaii. Playing in the continental United States, they are rolling. So, it's going to wrap it up for NCAA. And now let's move on to some NFL talk. So, now moving on to the NFL, we got to start with the game of the night. Honestly, it was hyped up as the game of the year. Didn't really live up to the hype because the Detroit Lions were all over the Minnesota Vikings, winning 31-29. Jahmyr Gibbs, absolute demon performance from him. 139 yards and 3 touchdowns. Lions finish 15-2 on the year, have the 1 seed, have the bye through the first round, which is big for them. I didn't really realize it. The Lions had a week 5 bye, which is the first week you can have a bye in the NFL. So for them to now get this first round bye in the playoffs, I mean, especially for how just kind of banged up they are, it's a very big win for their squad. The Vikings, man, just offensively had nothing going. Sam Darnold only threw for 166 yards. There was a couple times, man, he overthrew Justin Jefferson on some balls that should have been touchdowns. I mean, Jefferson only had 3 receptions for 54 yards. Tough look for him. He had 9 targets, but only three catches. Jalen Naylor threw 3 receptions for 53 as well on 4 targets. So the Lions did a good job, granted. Some of it, like I said, balls overthrown by Sam Darnold, but the Lions did a good job shutting down the big money maker, the wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, for the Vikings. So the Vikings, man, just their offense just didn't have it going. And I mean, their defense honestly played well. They kept them in the game in the first half because they had a couple takeaways that put Vikings in plus territory, got the ball back, but they had one 4th and goal that they went for that they didn't score a touchdown on, which then, like I said, They got the ball back on a takeaway, but then same thing, couldn't score, so then they just had to settle for 3. So a lot of just settling for field goals. I mean, that was their only scoring tonight, 3 field goals where Detroit, they were able to punch it in with Gibbs and figure it out eventually. I mean, Goff didn't have a great game, 231 yards passing, did throw for a touchdown, but did, like I said, threw two interceptions. So they returned the ball over. It's not like it was a clean game for him, but it was really just Jahmyr Gibbs just stole a show, 139 yards, 3 touchdowns, like I just mentioned. Amon-Ra, 77 yards. Laporta with 63, Jameson Williams with 34, and then Jahmyr Gibbs also caught the touchdown. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought he had 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he caught a touchdown to go along with his 31 yards receiving. So, Detroit, they got their bye. Minnesota, they're going to have to go on the road next week. We'll get into the NFL playoff schedule at the end. Next game I want to touch on, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They clinch the NFC South, clinch a playoff berth, a dramatic 27-19 win over the New Orleans Saints. I mean, not dramatic, but it was a close game. It was a back-and-forth game. They had to pull it out in the fourth quarter. They scored 14 points in the fourth quarter, shut out the Saints, so they came back, win the game, and once again, division champions for the, I believe, 4th straight year. Yeah, 4th straight year for Tampa Bay. Sorry, I'm just yapping. I gotta get my partners back. I'm gonna try to get some people on for picks this week because when I just yap like this, I get out of breath. So Mayfield threw for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Rushing-wise, the Bucs were led by Bucky Irving, who had 89 yards and a touchdown. Mayfield also had 68 yards rushing, so he was creative in that. But Really the big story in this for me, Mike Evans. He has 89 yards receiving, including on the final play of the game. He gets the 5 yards he needed to continue his 1,000 receiving yards per season streak. He's done it now all 11 years that he's been in the NFL. Secured himself an extra $3 million. So that was a cool moment. In the moment, I was kind of like, what the heck are they doing? Because like I said, they stopped the Saints to end the game. Where I'm kind of like, why are they throwing? Like, they get picked off. Like, New Orleans all of a sudden, like, takes it back. Like, the Bucs should have found themselves out of the playoffs. But, kind of watching it back, New Orleans guys kind of backed off. Just let them have that ball. They knew the game was over. So, good, nice moment for Mike Evans there. And then the other receiver, like, he had a really good game. He caught one of those touchdowns late to win it. Jalen McMillan was 74 yards. Yeah, he, like I said, caught the touchdown to put the Bucs up, win the game. He got a penalty right before. He had a big catch, did the first down signal, but they thought it was guns, so he got flagged. I mean, this is kind of getting out of hand, the stuff they're flagging guys for. But he then, makes up for it, catches the touchdown. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers win. They end up finishing as the 3 seed, and they will play the Washington Commanders. Commanders won 23-19 against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, there's a lot going on in the NFL witching hour today. I hope you guys were on Red Zone because it was a lot of fun. They win 23-19 behind 13 points in the fourth quarter. Marcus Mariota actually played for most of the second half. He threw for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did play well. Ended up helping winning the game. And it was the leading rusher as well, 56 yards and rushed for a touchdown. So, contributor on all the touchdowns for the Commanders. So, good for him. Terry McLaurin was the leading receiving yards getter with 62. Also caught a touchdown. And then Zach Ertz had 44 yards, caught the other touchdown. Olamide Zaccheaus had 51 yards. And honestly, he's been a really good weapon for Washington lately. I mean, he's going to be one to watch out from the playoffs. So, Commanders, they win. They get the 6th seed because they won, but also because at the same time, the Green Bay Packers, they had won 11 straight games against the Chicago Bears, looking to make it 12 today. Would not be the case. The Bears win 24-22. Walk-off field goal from Cairo Santos. This time doesn't get blocked like it did in Chicago. So the Bears snap their losing streak. It was at 11 games, I believe, 10, 11 games. Looked like just things are just a mess for the Bears. As you can see, I'm wearing, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing, my Sox shirt, my Hawks hat. I'm not a Bears fan, but I live here in Chicago. And man, it's been brutal just listening to the discussions around this team. But they end on a winning note. They knock off the Packers 24-22. Both teams finish 1-5 in the division. That is kind of really interesting. I mean, that's kind of what cost Green Bay here. They're a good team this year. They've played, Minnesota and Detroit tough, but just couldn't get a win. And if it wasn't for that blocked field goal, they would have finished 0-6 in the division. But they blocked the field goal first time. Don't block it this time. You got a little spice. I mean, the Bears had this game locked up until a DJ Moore fumble, but they come back. Caleb Williams gets them in field goal range. Nice final game for him. Only threw for 148 yards, but a touchdown, no interceptions. I mean, he got sacked 7 times. Or am I reading that right? I can't tell. He got sacked. He's always running for his life. Let's just be honest. If you're watching Caleb Williams, that's kind of the big holdup. So, Green Bay in this game, Jordan Love suffered an injury, came out for a little bit. Malik Willis was playing 136 yards, whereas Love only threw for 69. Neither of them threw a touchdown or interception. And then also Christian Watson suffered an injury in this game. They don't know if he's been good for playoff games. That's a big loss for them. Malik Heath ended up being their leading receiver with 53 yards, and Devontavian Wicks had 49. I mean, that's the thing, and it was kind of weird because some of these teams did have stuff to play for, but I guess since they knew we're gonna have to play next week anyways, we want to get some of these guys rest. Felt like a lot of these teams in contention. Like I said, Mariota's playing down the stretch for the Commanders. They were kind of playing for stuff and just weren't playing guys, which is a little odd to me, but is what it is. Bears get the win, 24-22. Some other things decided over the weekend. The Denver Broncos are back in the playoffs after beating the Chiefs 38-0. And like I said, Chiefs had the 1 seed locked up, nothing to play for. But the Broncos win, puts them back in the playoffs for the first time since 2015 when they won the Super Bowl. That's the last time, when Peyton Manning at the helm, was the last time this Broncos team was in the playoffs. Well, Bo Nix led the Broncos back there in his rookie year. He threw for 321 yards and 4 touchdowns today with 0 interceptions. Also was the leading rusher with 47 yards. Audric Estime rushed for a touchdown, 34 yards. He was the next kind of leading rusher. Cortland Sutton, man, he's had a really good year this year. He had 98 yards and a touchdown. Marvin Mims had 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Devon Vele caught the other one, caught the 4th touchdown. So, Denver, they're in. Kansas City, like I said, nothing really to mention. They weren't playing anybody. Carson Wentz is playing quarterback for them today. Only had 98 yards. Tough look for Carson. The Ravens, they lock up the AFC North, lock up the 3 seed after a 35-10 win over Cleveland on Saturday. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really love all these I guess they always do it, but all these Saturday games that the NFL is playing now is really just throwing me off. Especially in week 18. This one was kind of weird because the Ravens winning clinched the division before Pittsburgh even played. Which I'll get to that game in a sec. But yeah, I don't really know if I love this Thursday doubleheader that they've started doing here in week 17. But it is what it is. Like I've said in previous videos, NFL is going to put games on whatever day, whatever network, because they know people are going to watch. Lamar threw for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry rushed for 138 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that dude's just unstoppable. That's really going to be the difference maker for them in the playoffs. If somebody can find a way to stop him, if not, it's ball game. Ravens are going to go deep. Rashad Bateman, leading receiver, with 76 yards and a touchdown. Mark Andrews had 54 and a touchdown as well. So just overall dominant effort from the Ravens. And like I mentioned, they're going to be playing the now 6th seed. They fell today after the Chargers won. Pittsburgh Steelers, they fall to the Bengals 19-17. The Bengals were hoping to sneak in the playoffs after that win. Would not be the case because of that Broncos game, like I mentioned. But this is just an absolutely disgusting game, to be honest, especially as a Steelers fan. They've now lost 4 straight games, finished 10-7 for the second year in a row, which is really disappointing after they were 10-3. Granted, I mean, tough games with Philly, Baltimore, KC down the stretch, but if you're a good team, you got to win those games. And now they lose Cincinnati as well. So Joe Burrow threw for 277 yards, had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I mean, he's kind of the whole reason the Bengals were kind of even in the hunt for the playoffs this year, just because their defense is horrible. Yet they held Pittsburgh to only 17 points. Russell Wilson, on the other hand, only 148 yards for him, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, but did not make some smart plays late in regulation. Final drive, slid down inbounds, got sacked on a ball he should have thrown away. Just tough game for them. Najee Harris, did some tough running, scored a touchdown, but only 36 yards. I mean, not a whole lot going there, because just the receiving wise, there was nothing going for the Steelers. Freiermuth was the leading receiver with 8 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown. After that, it was Mike Williams with 25 yards, was the second leading receiver. George Pickens had 1 reception for 0 yards on 6 targets. For how much that guy complains and whines and is a diva, which, I don't mind, but just the production just is not there. Him and Russ clearly are not on the same page. Russ said that, which Pickens didn't know. So just the Steelers, man, they're just collapsing again. It's just very tough to watch, and they have to figure something out if they're going to have any chance to beat Baltimore, but I doubt it. On the Cincinnati side, Jamar Chase, leading receivers, 96 yards and a touchdown. Mike Gesicki had 68 yards. He was really, really targeted, 8 receptions on 10 targets, so good game for him. So Bengals fall just short. It's just kind of funny because that week 1 loss to the Patriots cost the Bengals the playoffs this week, and it also cost the Patriots number 1 pick. They knocked off the Bills. Granted, the Bills weren't playing anybody. But yeah, Patriots beat the Bills 23-16 to give the Tennessee Titans now the number 1 pick in the draft after they lose 23-14 to the Houston Texans. So before we get to the draft, let's talk playoffs, because that schedule has been announced. So on Saturday, once again, the Houston Texans will host the LA Chargers at 4:30 Eastern on CBS. And then on Prime, we have the Ravens and the Steelers once again playing on a Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, the triple-header, we got 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS, Broncos at Bills, 4:30 Eastern on Fox, Packers at Eagles, and then the Sunday night game, Commanders at the Bucks on NBC. And then on Monday night, we have the Vikings at the Rams. So good matchups, really excited for that. I mean, we're going to have an outstanding weekend of football. I'm not going to do my picks now. I'm going to do a video on that later in the week. Because Thursday, we got the Orange Bowl, Penn State, Notre Dame. Friday, we got the Cotton Bowl, Texas, Ohio State. Saturday, these playoff games. Sunday, more playoff games. And then the Monday night playoff games. So 5 straight days of just really good football. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then just quickly to wrap up, I'm going to talk a little NBA here. Just want to give it some love. Once NFL ends, NHL and NBA will get more love. Right now, it's just been kind of quick. It's been mainly college basketball, NFL in these videos. But if you want it to be more, NBA and stuff, let me know. Comment down below. I'm just being honest, I watch more college basketball. But I do want to give a shout out. Anthony Edwards, 53 points on Saturday night. But it wasn't enough as his Timberwolves fell 119 to 105 to the Detroit Pistons. Detroit, a lot better team this year. I know last year, they had the famous losing streak, the Wingstop Pistons, but they're now 17-18 this year, which, not great, but a lot better. Minnesota is 17-17. Cade Cunningham, he led the way for Detroit. He had 40 points. Really good game from him. He's really emerging. I really liked him a lot at Oklahoma State, so I'm happy to see him kind of popping off this year the way he has been. And then on Sunday, we had a battle of the top teams in each conference. Potential NBA Finals preview. Oklahoma City Thunder knock off the Boston Celtics 105-92 behind 33 points from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He had 33 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and he was the leading scorer by far. The rest of the Thunder starters were in double digits. Lou Dort with 14 points, Casey Wallace 13. Then Jalen Williams had 10. I guess Isaiah Hartenstein only had 8, but he did have 10 rebounds. So, good win for the Thunder. Boston was led by Jason Tatum with 26 points, and then Porzingis with 19, and Jaylen Brown with 21. So, I'm be honest, this game was in the middle of the day. I didn't really watch a bunch of it, just kind of watched the highlights. But, good win for the Thunder. Kind of proven they can hang with the Celtics. If this was a finals preview, I'd be down for this is a fun match to see. Both teams have star power on each side. 3-point shooting, it was ridiculous. That's really what cost Boston. They shot 9 of 46 from beyond the arc. That's 19%. That's not very good. So I think they're probably gonna need part of those drops. Shoot a bit better at 19% to have a chance to win this game. OKC shot 16 of 38 from beyond the arc, so that was big for them. They did also announce, I guess, one more kind of NBA thing that I could touch on here. They did announce NBA Allstar Voting returns. So here in those first returns, this is actually kind of surprising because, every year it kind of seems the same captains in the NBA All-Star Draft. Granted, this year they're doing a different format. They're doing like a 4-team tournament where it's going to be like 3 different teams of 8, and then the like Rising Stars game winner also gets to play. And surprisingly, LeBron and Steph, not first. In the Western Conference front court leaders, we have Jokic, Kevin Durant, then LeBron's third, with Anthony Davis in fourth, Victor Wembanyama in fifth. Then a steep drop off for Alfred Sengun, Jalen Williams, Andrew Wiggins, DeMontis Sabonis, Jaren Jackson to wrap the top 10. Then guards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's the leading vote getter altogether in the West. He has over 1 million votes so far. He's the leading vote getter for guards, but 4th leader in the West. And then Luka's second with 870,000. And then Steph Curry's 3rd, Kyrie's 4th, Ant Edwards 5th. And then Harden, Ja Morant, De'Aaron Fox, Devin Booker, and Norm Powell wrap up the top 10 in the West. East, their leading vote getter and the leading vote getter altogether, Giannis, with 1.7 million votes. And Jason Tatum also with over 1 million votes. And then Karl Anthony Towns in 3rd. Paolo Banchero, despite his injuries, in 4th, which is a little odd to me. And then it's Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler, Franz Wagner, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Evan Mobley. The guards, leading the way is LaMelo Ball, who I believe has also had some injury this year and is currently on the second to last team in the West. So that was a little odd to me. Then it's Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Jordan Poole, Tyler Hero, Derek White. So for me, why don't I just do it? It'll be a fun activity. Who I would probably vote for, I'm gonna go with Donovan Mitchell and then Jalen Brunson, the guards in the East. Top 3 for front court, I have no problem with Giannis, Tatum, Cat. That works for me. Out West, I'm going Shea. Luka has been very good this year, but it's in the Bay. I want Steph Curry starting. Give me Steph Curry and Shea. And then front court, I'll go top 3. I'll stick top 3. Screw it. Jokic, Durant, give me Wembanyama. I want Wemby starting. He had a really good game on Christmas Day. I want more of these casual NBA fans to see how good Victor Wembanyama is. So That's who I'm going with as my all-star picks. And then wrapping up in hockey, not a whole lot to talk about in the NHL. I mean, it's kind of like a dead time of the year. We got the Four Nations face-off coming up in like a month, so I'll talk about that when it gets a little bit closer. Blackhawks are on TV today. They got killed. NHL, please stop putting them on national TV, because don't make other people have to deal with just the pain. But in the World Juniors, the United States, USA, they win their back-to-back World Junior Championship, knocking off Finland 4-3 in overtime. Game-winning goal was scored by Teddy Stiga, Cole Hudson, and Brandon Savoda, and James Hagan scored the other U.S. goals. So, congrats to them on winning the World Juniors. It was in Canada, so always fun to win on enemy soil. So, congrats to them. The Czech Republic got third, I believe, right? That game was safe, if I remember correctly. Or no, yes. Czech Republic beat Sweden in a shootout to win the bronze medal game. So congrats to them on that. And yeah, that's kind of going to wrap it up for this sports weekend. This was maybe a little longer than I'd like to be. So in the future, comment down below. Let me know kind of what sports you want me to talk about more, kind of how you want this to go. I'd love to eventually, do this live, where then maybe I could break it up into the different sports, talk about it that way. So if you want to see that, comment that, let me know. So I appreciate everyone who's still watching at this point. Like I said, kind of been rambling on. Gonna try to do this every Sunday night, and we'll be recording, just kind of talking about all the stuff that went down on the weekend. So appreciate y'all being here along with me. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.